Hi, and welcome once again to the Suidlanders Media YouTube channel, where we do today our weekly events program with me, Marius Greyling, and Simon Roche. Simon, how's things going your side?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Marius. Off camera, we were chatting about the subjects that we'll cover, and I made the point to you that I've had a busy couple of weeks. I had a German camera team here for a few days. Then I had our leader and founder of our organization, Suidlanders, here with me for a few days, and then two other colleagues have been here for 3 going on 4 days now. With the result that I haven't kept up with international news as well as I would have liked. But you mentioned a couple of subjects that you thought we could address, and yeah, we can have a nice Charlie chat about that. But other than that, that I'm under a bit of pressure and not on top of everything. I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking, Marius.
It's a pleasure, Simon. Yeah, we hinted at it on Tuesday that Robert Fico, he's now, I guess he's the president of Slovakia. He told Putin in an interview in front of the media that Slovakia are willing to keep Russian gas and oil despite whatever the UA or NATO has to say about it. And they want to resell it like India does. And they want to do other kinds of business with Russia as well. Putin obviously smiled from ear to ear to hear this, but yeah, it's Slovakia saying the hell with the EU. We will keep your gas and your oil.
This is a very, very big thing. It shouldn't be underestimated. The implications for NATO and the European Union are great. Slovakia was in one of the waves, I forget which now, I think the 2009 wave of eastward expansion of NATO. And they're a member of the European Union. They and Hungary have been pushing back against this mad NATO, European Union, American obsession with tackling Russia. If countries begin to say it's not in our national interests to place NATO or the European Union above our relationship with Russia, then those entities could begin to fracture.
Mm.
And a number of very senior observers, top guys, are talking about the European Union not lasting another 10 years for this very reason. Its policies, and NATO as well. We'll mix the two subjects a little bit. Hopefully, the listeners won't mind that. We'll mix the two entities, the European Union and NATO. If that begins to happen, it will be the unraveling of a ball of string that will never stop unraveling.
Mm.
Because if Hungary and Slovakia go their own way, and for instance, the Russians say, well, we'll give you security guarantees. You're not going to be part of NATO, which was founded to be a bulwark against the expansion of communism
Mm.
into, into Europe. It was founded to combat, I beg your pardon, the Soviet Union and the Eastern European countries of the Warsaw Pact, the 8 Warsaw Pact countries. If they get security guarantees, for instance, and they're also getting gas and oil at a fraction the price that the rest of Europe is paying, then social entities, voters, media, uh, scholars are going to start to openly question in other countries, why is it that we're paying so much more for heating oil and freezing ourselves half to death in winter when Hungary and Slovakia particularly, they've kind of overtaken Hungary in this lead, you know.
Yeah.
What Robert Fico said was a very bold thing to say. If these people are paying less for heating, they're trading with Russia, they've got security guarantees, and they seem to be safe and secure and sound, it will have a sort of a cascade effect.
Mm.
If the European Union threatens them with being evicted, they might just jump. They might just say, we've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
NATO. The same with NATO. I don't think that it will happen because the European Union and NATO know that if this starts, it will never stop. It will be a cascade effect. It will be a cascade effect. It will be the ball of string that never stops unraveling, because there's a lot about NATO and the European Union that is just, excuse my language, bull dust. Bull dust laws on immigration, bull dust fantastic levels of taxation, bull dust politicians completely out of touch with their citizenry, and so on and so forth. So we should keep a very close eye on it, Marius, and see
Yeah.
how it develops. It could be a very, very big thing that we are seeing develop before our very eyes as countries like Slovakia and Hungary. So we are not going to freeze to death this winter to make the elites of the European Union in Brussels happy.
Yeah. No, I watched the whole interview between the two of them, and Robert Fisco or Fico, I'm not sure how you pronounce his Fico, Robert Fico, specifically hinted at that and saying, listen here, Slovakia's economy is more important at this stage as the stick that the EU will hit them with. He basically said that out and out. So, yeah. Okay, then we can move on. Yesterday, it was the start of the SCO summit in China with a lot of parades. They were showing off a lot of their new military weapons. It looked very, very impressive. And the three guys that was the earliest or that pitched up first was Putin, Kim Jong-un, and President from China, Xi Jinping. It was the first time that they met each other together. There was a huge hoorah about it. Even so that Trump sent out a Trump tweet like only Trump can do. In his tweet, basically, to sum it up, he said, I hope China remembers the USA helped secure their freedom and they must be acknowledged, the USA, in this parades and things that they have. And then the three of them, he sent his warmest regards to them while they are conspiring against the USA.
Yeah, honestly. The thing is, he's not wrong to say those things because in the United States of America, that actually works. But is he correct? No, it's just nonsense. It's only the American market that falls for such ridiculous blandishments. It is true that in a sense the USA helped China in as much as the World War II was partly initiated by the Japanese invasion of the Chinese territory, a portion, a region of China known as Manchuria. So in beating the Japanese, so China was able to reclaim its territory, and yes, the USA did do that. It's not untrue. But he's kind of missing the point. He's basically saying, well, because we helped you 80 years ago, unintentionally, you owe us one now. That was 80 years ago. Right now, the world is a different place. We are seeing the emergence of a bi- or tripolar world in which the USA retains one of the poles and China occupies the other, and Russia sits somewhere in the middle, this fantastic bounty of wealth that does count for very much. A US politician famously described Russia as a gas station masquerading as a country, a fuel station pretending to be a country. It's not the case at all. Russia has a fantastic economy, estimated by some to now be the world's third largest. Others say the fourth. There's some debate, and nobody's really sure because since the sanctions against the Russian financial system, exclusion from SWIFT, exclusion from the architecture of Visa and MasterCard, which is the universal architecture of all credit cards in the whole world, we can't really get a good look at the Russian economy. But if it's the third or fourth largest, that's huge. And if it has the world's most powerful army, and if it has by far the world's most valuable resources, natural resources, and if it's 11 time zones big, and if it's exerting a fantastic influence over Europe and Asia, which no other European country can say, how does that not permit it to be regarded as a pole of a sort, as almost like a Mercedes-Benz badge, a three-poled global hegemony, you know? So, yeah, Donald Trump is barking up the wrong tree. He really is. That will sell well in the USA. Everybody will be fooled by it, but it's erroneous. It's talking 80 years ago, we were really nice to you, even though we didn't really want to be. You still owe us. No, no, no. The world has moved on very far from there. The SCO summit is the summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement, which is roughly speaking a trade and investment and financial friendship, if you like. And it's very, very powerful because you're talking about the participation of many countries in Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, countries that have economies that form a huge proportion of the entire global economy. You know, I was looking at a statistic the other day in which it showed each portion of the world, region. So you had Africa, you had Asia, North America, South America, Europe. It might have been split slightly differently. There might have been a fifth category. Oceania, I think, was one. So that's Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific Islands. And the African population is, I forget, 22%. But its contribution to the global economy is 2%. That is no longer the case in Asia. There was a time when Asia had an enormous population, very populous countries, but was contributing very little to the global gross domestic product. It's not the case anymore. It's contributing very much. These people are getting together and they're doing it in a very serious manner. And Donald Trump yelling from the sidelines is going to change nothing except in the minds of Americans. Americans will say, yeah, we haven't a clue, but you must be right because you're a great guy. We voted for you. Make America great again. It's not going to change the friendship between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. It's not going to change the relationship between Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un and Russia. People must remember, in recent years, I forget the exact dates, it came to light, and this was then leaked on the Judge Andrew Napolitano show by two former CIA analysts, that Russia gave North Korea a whole bunch of Topol-M intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear ballistic missiles. And for some reason, the whole world chose not to cover it. Nobody speaks about it. And I know I'm getting worked up and dramatic and all sorts flamboyant now. But can you explain to me how it is that one country says he has a whole bunch of nuclear missiles, the second largest sort in existence, by the way? If I remember the figures correctly, 12,500% more powerful than the atomic bombs that were used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Not that they were identical, but roughly 12,500% more powerful. If you're giving them that, let's for a second just leave aside the rights and the wrongs of the matter. Maybe he shouldn't have done it, whatever. But the relationship has to be like this. It has to be an unbroken, unbreakable relationship for one country to say, we're giving you enough nuclear power to destroy half the world. Have a great day. Yep. Now, as you and I have spoken about before, they don't dish out the codes for the operations of those missiles like candy. So it's not to say that North Korea could right now decide all by itself to wipe out half the world. It doesn't work that way. Things are done in a far more measured and controlled manner. Nevertheless, It is of the most capital significance. There is nothing that Donald Trump or all of the politicians in the United States of America put together can do to influence such a relationship.
Yeah.
It's far beyond the scope of the or the. I don't want to speak in a way that's false and that's sarcastic and facetious and sardonic, but it is beyond the comprehension of American politicians. They just don't understand what's happening in the world. They don't understand the significance of BRICS, the enormity of the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement, the solidness of those relationships between China, North Korea, Russia. Which is not to say that all Russians love Chinese. It's not to say that the Chinese don't sometimes get absolutely fed up with the North Koreans. Notoriously so, it is the case. But the bedrock that we're talking about is something that the Americans cannot erode. They can't even influence it. It's too far gone now. These events are far too big, Marius.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the guys that was also there, one of the countries that was also there was India, and in a speech to the media, Putin defended India at the summit after the USA put a 50% tariff on the country. We know this; we've spoken about this for buying Russian oil and gas and then reselling it to the European countries. And yeah, what the delegate that they sent there, Mr. Moby, he was very chuffed.
Modi. He's the
Modi.
Prime Minister of India.
Oh, he was very chuffed. He was walking around with Putin almost hand in hand, smiling from ear to ear after Putin has spoken to the media and said, listen here, we know America think that they the beginning and end all, but you can't speak down to other countries like America is busy doing. And it's being noticed and we don't like it. So, and then he named India's economic strength and how much population they have as well. And then he said, they're not little guys anymore. Stop. You mustn't. It basically came down to stop bullying little guys. And yeah, well, I found it very interesting as well that he would publicly, in a speech to the media, say, stop treating the smaller countries, especially India, like this.
Yeah, well, the thing is that this is again, I'm going to end up riding the same horse, but it's unintentional. I didn't set out to do it this afternoon. Bharatiya Janata Party is the Hindu nationalist party of India. The Indians elected Narendra Modi on the basis of him being a nationalist. India for the Indians first. Our interests. Later, we'll think about or consider the interests of the United States of America, Europe, whatever. But for ourselves, we're going to call the shots here. Narendra Modi will be deeply offended by Donald Trump's comments. He won't be able to do much about it. India doesn't have a navy, an amphibious assault navy to make a landing on the west coast of the United States of America. India can't do much about the tariffs, but all it's going to do is drive India more into the arms of China and Russia. Okay. Again, the Indians and the Chinese don't like each other all that much. We don't have time now for me to go into the details, but the Chinese betrayed the Indians scandalously when the Indians were the only people in the world who helped them following the Chinese Revolution in 1948. The Indians bent over backwards to accommodate or to lend assistance to China finding its feet after 1948, and the Chinese betrayed the Indians disgracefully. And they still have a border dispute. There is dispute. It's a question of disputed territory. Where does your land end? When does mine begin? But it is a sign of how far they've come and how furious they are with the American global order, what Americans called New American Century. So this 100-year period.
Yeah.
Nobody likes it, the way that the USA manages it. And now with global communication, you no longer have a situation in which, let's say, 90% of a country or 95% is not mathematically literate, can't read a signboard, lives in a shack, eats awful food, knows nothing about politics. People have, in a sense, been able to educate themselves at the very grassroots level, not necessarily in trigonometry and calculus, but in dealing with an electronic product, at understanding, comprehending the 21st century, downloading a video, on any subject under the sun, going to the cinema 5 times a day via your own telephone. So we live in a different world to that time in which, for instance, we white people in South Africa could rightly say the majority or a minority, would you choose your favorite number, 99%, 1.3% of black people in South Africa can't do this or that or the next thing because there hasn't been sufficient period of time for development. It took we Europeans 2,025 years just from the death of Christ. If you go back to ancient Greece, which is arguably the beginning of Western civilization, you're talking the collapse of the Bronze Age happened in 1186 BC or 1177, depending which calendar system you use. We've had 3,000 years to get to the moon or to make computers or whatever. When colonialism first began in South Africa, people arrived here in 1652 and set up the first permanent, they called it a way station, kind of a halfway house for ships. There was very little development here. You cannot condense 3,000 years of Western European civilizational development into 300 years. Nobody can do it. It's simply not possible. But the digital revolution has completely changed that. Now, a practical caveman, to exaggerate a little bit, or some little pygmy living in the densest jungles of Africa, Southern Central African Republic, Northern Uganda, Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, even that person is now exposed to the idea that if his daughter goes off to university or she comes to South Africa to this farm to look for work, he can ring her up. It has been the great equalizer of history, digital, mass, telephonic communication. And that clock can't be turned back. The China and India are not going to fail in this endeavor, and all of the others associated with them. They have committed themselves to launching their countries forward into the rest of the 21st century.
Yeah.
And they're loving every minute of it. So far, it's an unmitigated success. And you've got these turkeys in the USA saying, no, it's no good, we don't like it, we don't like it, we don't like that, we don't like that, make America great again. It's idiotic. How on earth do you propose to now unconvince 3,000 million people, 3 billion? It's not only there. If you take other BRICS countries and other Southeast Asian countries and you subtract Europe and the other Western countries, you're talking maybe 5,000 million people who are jumping on this bandwagon through the same damn cell phone at the same damn time. Donald Trump is not happy about it. Sanctions, triple sanctions, 500 quadrillion million billion percent. Say, what are you, child, you child, you're a child. It's childlike. And there's this kind of a separation from reality here, Marius. I think, as much as it's unattractive to some viewers when I rant and rave, I do understand that. And I do understand the benefits and the advantages and the necessities of behaving professionally. But I believe that I'm entitled to rant and rave because it seems as if, not it seems as if, quite clearly, some people don't understand what is occurring here. This is the launch into the 21st century, not from the 20th, from the 9th century. Indian villages have, or had until recently, what Europeans had in the 9th or the 8th or the 7th or the 6th century. These people are being launched by digital technology, by cooperation, by collaboration, by sharing, as we see these various countries doing. 1,000 years they've been drawn out of the darkness of the Middle Ages or pre-Middle Ages, dark ages of Europe into the 21st century, and Donald Trump is imposing sanctions on them because they're too nice to one another. When I scream and when I shout and when I behave badly, people must bear in mind that I'm not getting worked up over some small conceptual difference. I'm getting worked up over the absolute hopeless failure of the West to understand that the world is being turned upside down as we speak, and you can't stop it, and you will only make it worse if you behave like an idiot. BRICS was kicked off, not BRICS, Russia was kicked off the SWIFT system. What did it do? It, in collaboration with China, built 7 replacements. SWIFT serves the whole world. Russia and China, just between the two of them, have 7 replacements. They don't all do the same thing.
Yeah.
But roughly speaking, you can say there are now 7 substitutes that you can work through to do what SWIFT did. They're making the West look like idiots. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump thinks he can stop it with Truth Social tweets. Marius, This is a divorce from reality. This is, and people don't get it. And I have to shout louder. If I see your precious grandmother Susan walking beneath a plunging concrete pile, or whatever you call it, pillar from a skyscraper above, and I say, Granny Sue, it's Si here, Marius's friend Si, and she doesn't hear me. At some point, I must scream. Relative, proportionate to the matter, the danger, the jeopardy, the whatever.
Yeah.
It must be proportionate, it must be reasonable. And I'm telling you that I'm not being disproportionate when I rant and rave like a lunatic. Woo, people don't understand what's coming. This is going to turn the world upside down. It is going to chuck the West into a circumstance that it hasn't been in for a long, long, long time. The West has been hegemonic since forever. Mm. We are staring down the barrel of coming second. And that clown is addressing the matter. Truth Social tweets. Truth Social posts. It's mentally retarded, Marius.
Yeah. Simon, we only have a couple of minutes left, but I just remembered I saw something today which you might find very interesting. I'm seeing that Israel is putting up road signs to the third temple.
Just say that again, Marius. I apologize to you.
Israel is putting up road signs to the third temple. So literally, it is happening soon. It must be happening soon. One of the red heifers have been slaughtered. The whole ritual has been done, although they said it's just a practice. Now there's being road signs put up towards the third temple. And I'm keeping my finger on that pulse as far as I can, just for interest's sake. But I thought you might find it interesting that they're already putting up road signs.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. We've run out of time, and I've spoken about this in at least 100 interviews. And with all due respect to everybody, no disrespect to anybody, of all of the political commentators and what have you in the world, I don't know of anybody who has spoken in more detail about this subject, not even faintly close to me. It doesn't make me a Jewish rabbi, but in terms of political commentators, I'm a country mile ahead of the rest. What is my point? Is it to brag? No, it's to say we've been down this road. We know what's coming. This is the year in which the rabbis say that the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock must be utterly extirpated so that the third temple can be built. You and I have discussed in the very greatest detail the calendars, all of the criteria, etc., etc., etc. Right now, you can go on to a website called templesomething.com, and you can see for yourself that the garments that the priests will wear have already been made, that the choir is rehearsing as we speak. So, yeah, it's very eventful, and the only way that it can be built is under cover of and within circumstances of a third world war. Because if the Israelis moved in there and destroyed Islam's third holiest site after Mecca and Medina, then the Muslim world would go absolutely berserk. That Israel simply isn't strong enough, as we saw when it got thrashed by Iran in the recent 12-day war. And if anybody's in any doubt of that, please do the research. Don't say, Simon, you don't know what you're talking about. The Israelis did well. No, Israel got thrashed. It got smashed to smithereens. Don't listen to Western media. Go and find the best sources, the satellite photographs, the eyewitnesses, the social media stuff that I posted thousands of. Israel could never possibly do that successfully. So it would require not Israel facing off against all of Islam, Muslim world going berserk. It would need to drag the West into a war in that region, under cover of which they would then be able to, so they claim, be able to build the third temple. My point being, if they were already putting up the road signs, then we are very, very close to very, very dark things, Marius.
Yeah. Simon, on that note, our time has run out. Thanks once again for the chat. I enjoyed it. And then I'll speak to you on next week and Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marius. See you then.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheerio, Marius. Bye-bye.